Hey Scrappers, it's Tom from the iScrap app, and wherever you're watching us this week, we welcome you to our weekly report, where you can learn about scrap metal prices, news, ask us questions about materials, or ask our advice on the markets. If you're looking to ask those questions, ask us whether it's live or after, and we'll always get you those answers. Come on in, let's go talk scrap.
Hey Scrappers, Tom from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. We hope that you're doing well. As you can see by our headliner here, we're telling you to sell copper, and there's certainly a reason, and we're going to go into that. But before we really get into that, for those of you using iPhones, but especially for you Droid users, make sure that you download or update the newest version from the iScrap app. We know that we had a couple of crashes going on. We were able to identify that problem in the software. We were able to get it fixed by downloading or updating the iScrap app on your phones. Of course, it's free, and it's going to make it so you can get prices more current, and you'll be able to get more notifications. Those notifications are super helpful. I even like receiving them on my phone because it just gives me the ability to see what's going on with the markets. Even when I start to talk about market prices, it just gives you that little bit of reminder. You know, it's like being reminded that it's going to snow tomorrow or that the weather is going to be hot. Those little reminders make your life a little better because you know how to dress. You know whether you want to work outside tomorrow and you have the ability to work inside. Well, the same thing goes for scrap. If we're telling you what's going on, we're not trying to give you bad advice. We're trying to tell you where the markets are. We're trying to tell you where the markets could be going. Maybe you hold, maybe you sell. So we'll kind of get into that. We had some questions from the last week or so that we'll go over as well, but I want to start with just going after some of the copper prices and some of the things that we see for the first half of 2022. The last couple of weeks of 2021, we did our recap and our preview videos, and they were really popular. And going into the 6-month period of time, let me tell you what I'm seeing right now. I follow things like the consumer index, price alerts, inflationary rates, commodities, not just on the copper and the metal side, but also wood and other things like that. For the next 6 months, I see there being a big and continuing inflationary period. How do I know that? Well, we've been seeing it multiple months in a row, but on the metal side of things, while things have been weaker, they haven't been so much weaker that we don't see and can't predict price increases in going along. You know, we said a few months ago that steel prices were most likely going to be going down going into the winter time. And here we are, markets are dropping 50, 60 bucks a ton. But we also are looking at things, and we're looking at new home prices. We're looking at auto prices, gas and oil markets. And all of these are leading to prices continuing to stay really strong. Our 12-month moving average for copper on the trading level has remained over $4. That has never happened in history. So for 12 months in a row, the trading level has been over $4 per pound, which has shown that those prices for aluminum, copper, brass, wire, all these different things that we recommend buying holding or selling, those are going to affect a lot of things. Your phones, computers, houses, cars, gas pump, right? Your coffee every morning. If you're not making it yourself, you know, your classic Folgers can, you're going down to the local corner store, their prices are going up. So we expect to see the markets remaining strong for the first half of this year. Even this morning, something crazy for no reason at all. We saw copper jump 15 cents a pound. And while that's really great, and we'll definitely tell you to sell today, we also have no reasoning behind that. So we're watching these markets closely because 15 cents up today could mean 15 cents down tomorrow. And we're just watching these as closely as we can. But we have a few questions from last week and over the last couple of weeks for some of the videos that we've been posting and people are reacting to. We try to reply to as many comments as possible. So we're going to try to answer some of these questions.
So one of the first questions was, do scrapyards take aluminum or steel fuel tanks empty?
So most scrapyards have their own rules on fuel tanks. My scrapyard, personally, we don't take tanks unless we can physically see that they're cut open and completely drained. So your scrapyard, you might want to ask them what their requirements are because they might not want to deal with anything that has fuel tanks on it. For example, at my yard, if you bring us anything that has a fuel tank left on it and we can't see inside, we're not going to take it, not even for free. Other scrapyards might not care, but that's also one of the reasons that you see some of these news alerts with scrapyards having fires, because batteries are left inside of vehicles, or there's fuel left inside of tanks. Ask your yard. This way you're doing it the way that they want and not just what you assume is right.
We have another one. I cannot figure out why scrapyards are so fussy over brass that has steel or other contaminants.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question, and one that I can answer pretty quickly. When we go to sell material, we get downgraded. So if you're going to have things mixed in steel, plastic, we have to downgrade you. And the answer that we've seen in the past is, well, why does it matter? It's all going into a furnace. It's going to get melted down. Well, it matters because there are different consumers for different types of brass. Clean bronze might go to one consumer. Clean yellow brass with less than 2% attachments might go to another consumer. And these different consumers have their own requirements for materials, and you need to respect those requirements because they might not have the staff to go after things that have more than 2% of contaminants. So certain mills, certain scrap buyers, they want consistency and steadiness, and mixed materials won't do that for different buyers. Another question.
Why did the bottom seem to drop out in the last few days, down to $45 per ton?
Yeah, so this post actually was a couple of weeks ago, and this wasn't really surprising. We saw steel prices dropping in December after the very strong increases we saw 2 to 3 months earlier. Now, in January, we saw the markets down again, and we expect February markets to be down another $30 per ton. But I wouldn't be overly concerned because we see a massive amount of consumption taking place. We see the world kind of ending the pandemic and going into the endemic, where you're kind of just living with the virus. You have, quarantine times getting cut down. You have people needing things. You have car manufacturers continuing to break record numbers of vehicles delivered because people are looking to buy things. That is going to bode very well for the scrap industry for the first 6 months of this year. But things that we're going to look for, how does the Federal Reserve affect interest prices? Now, that might not be something that's hot on your list to check every day, but we really need interest rates to go up because there is so much money out there that the U.S. government has such an amount of debt that it's going to affect the metal prices. And having a slowly increasing interest rate is going to mean that banks are going to be paying that money back sooner. Credit card consumers are going to be paying more in interest. And that money is going to start to kind of get scooped back up from the government after the last 2 years of just kind of throwing it to anyone that had a pulse. So we look at these things and we try to push them into the scrap world so you get a better idea. But, consumers, while they have more money than they have in the past, they're buying more goods, but they're taking longer to get those goods. So you might have a small pullback, especially during the winter, especially during a heavy Omicron thing that's going on right now. So you just don't know where the markets are.
And last one is, my scrapyard told me that if it has weld on it, it can't go as extruded. They also told me that it has to be at least 1/8 of an inch. Are they trying to get over on it?
Yeah, so scrapyards have their own requirements. I mean, here at my yard, we have our own requirements for what extruded aluminum could actually be. And asking your scrapyard what their expectations are for your scrap will teach you what to do when it comes to aluminum, brass, copper, steel, or any other metal. Now, certain yards really do have a very hard time understanding aluminum alloys. They might not have XRF analyzers. They might not have a good downstream. They might just put it into their sheet container. I know some yards that have 3 grades of aluminum. They have sheet aluminum, aluminum siding, aluminum rims, and that's it. So you could have bare 6063, 6061, all of these other grades, and it could be going right into their sheet bin. Well, that means that you're not making as much money, but that's where, by downloading the iScrap app, using it online, finding scrapyards that might be 50 miles away. We have a lot of people that say it's the only yard in my area, and I don't accept that as a valid argument. There are other yards within 50 miles of you. You might not want to drive to them, but if you use your local yard to sell low-grade items to, light iron, heavy iron, sure, they might be higher in pricing, but they're bulkier and you don't want to touch them twice. find a better yard through the iScrap app to sell your non-ferrous to. Find a yard that will explain aluminum sorting, copper cutting, brass separation. Find one like that and use the iScrap app's tools to help you. I kind of get tired of repeating myself over and over again. We're trying to help you make more money. And when you see the videos and the tutorials, those are written from Scrapyard's point of views, right? We write a lot of those articles. A lot of those videos are made off of your comments and how we view it from the Scrapyard. We can't be more transparent than that. So by following and trying new things, that's one of the biggest things. I mean, one of the people that I work with pushes me all the time to try new things and get away from doing the old things. And that's enabled me to become a better team member, right? A better boss. More transparency is going to help you. So finding new yards and finding someone to talk to for a few minutes that's knowledgeable is going to make you feel more comfortable. Now, if you still want to learn more, we had a Patreon supporter recently who asked us a question over a month ago. Hey, I have a bunch of copper that I'm holding. How much do you think I should ask? Or do you think I should ask my yard for more money? We were able to give that person advice, and they made over $300 extra on one single transaction by being a Patreon supporter. So if you aren't one, become one for a month. You can try for a month and then cancel, but it gives you the ability to ask us questions that we might not answer otherwise just through YouTube or as quickly as you may want, because we deal with so many people. But we want to be able to teach you how to make more money, and sometimes learning about what to ask from even your current yard can quell that problem so you don't have to go 50 miles away. So keep that in mind. Factors that we're looking into right now and things that we recommend. I recommend selling copper, brass, aluminum. All three of those, very strong markets. Insulated copper wire could be thrown in there as well. The markets are strong. There's no reason to really, hold them right now. Sell them, especially with some of the increases that we've seen. What I recommend holding, your heavy unprepared or your number one steels, your rotors. With the markets expected to go down again, you might want to stockpile these for a couple of months. Maybe you're able to store a little more material, and then from there you'll be able to cash in a better way. I also recommend selling stainless, holding stainless. Even though stainless prices are up, from everything that I read about, the nickel market and the nickel industry and the aviation and the aerospace industry is going to continue to become more popular as we move away from the scaredness of flying and going back into the air. That means that more planes are going to be produced. People are going to start doing more things in outer space, and these are going to lead to the nickel prices and the stainless prices, as well as other high temperature rare earth alloys having more value going into 2022. Now, Scrappers, my name is Tom. You know me by now. If you don't, thank you for joining me. We'd love to hear your ideas, your opinions, your comments. Lead us in a direction so we can cater to what you're looking for, helping you make more money with your scrap, breaking down the market in new ways. We'd love to hear your opinions. Make sure you update the iScrap app for all Droid users. We're eliminating those crashes. And make sure you read our weekly blog on top of these video reports. We're trying to put things in there that are going to help you make more money. My name is Tom from iScrap. Today's January 12th. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for checking out our scrap videos. By becoming a Patreon supporter today, you'll be entered into monthly giveaways for tools and other products to help you make more money with your scrap.